Okay, multiplying binomial radical expressions. Binomial remembers that you have two terms, and so we are multiplying two parentheses that have two terms in each. So here you have 4 plus 2 square roots of 2, and 5 plus 4 square roots of 2, and they're being multiplied. This 2 square roots of 2 here is considered one term. This 4 square roots of 2 is also considered one term, so that's where we end up with 2. When we do this, we're going to be foiling. So remember, first, outer, inner, last. So when you multiply, we're going to do 4 times 5, which gives us 20. That's our first. Okay, then 4 times 4 square roots of 2. Now when you do this, you multiply together the parts outside the radical, and then separately you multiply the parts inside. So in this one you'll do 4 times 4 is 16. Now this one does not have a radical, so you're really multiplying just the number 1 times the square root of 2. So you get 16 square roots of 2. Then you'll have to do your inner. Again, multiply the parts that are not under the radical, so that would be plus 10 square roots of 2. And then lastly here, plus, and we'll do 2 times 4 is 8. Square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 4. And then from here you have to follow all of your rules that we've been doing. So if we kind of look through here, we can't do anything with the 20. This part in the middle, the 16 square roots of 2 plus 10 square roots of 2, we can add that together. That becomes plus 26 square root of 2. And then lastly we have plus 8 square roots of 4, but the square root of 4 is going to become 2, so that becomes plus 8 times 2, which is 16. And we can keep going here. 20 plus 16 gives us 36 plus 26 square roots of 2. Now, this will not help you get the answer, but one way you could check this at the end is you could take your calculator, type in 36 plus 26 square roots of 2, and whatever you get, if you were to type this exact same thing in up here, you should get the same thing. One thing you have to be careful of is some of you, depending on your calculator, if you do that, make sure you close the parenthesis after both the radicals to help out there. Then the other one over here, 3 times 5 would give us 15. 3 times the square root of 7. Now notice there's nothing here. There's really just a 1. And so you get plus 3 square roots of 7. Here you got a negative now, so it's really a negative 1 in there. So minus 5 square roots of 7. And then lastly at the end, minus the square root of 49 because the 7 is underneath the radical in both parts. It's technically minus 1 if you want to put that, but we don't need to put that there. So then as you simplify 15, we can combine these like radicals in the middle, minus 2 square root of 7. And then minus 7 at the end. And when you do this now, we've got positive 15 and negative 7, which gives us 8 minus 2 square roots of 7. Now moving on to conjugates. Remember our conjugates, when we dealt with imaginary numbers, we changed the imaginary part to the opposite. We left the real part the same. This is similar, where if you have the square root of a plus the square root of b, the square root of a minus the square root of b. So you're going to take that second term, and if it's positive, you're going to make it negative. If it's negative, you're going to make it positive. Notice the first term, nothing happens. So here, these are conjugates. They both start with a 5, but then we have minus the square root of 7 plus the square root of 7. So when you FOIL, you end up with 25 plus 5 square roots of 7 minus 5 square roots of 7 minus the square root of 49. And just like we talked about before, again with imaginary numbers, this part in the middle is going to cancel, and you end up with 25 minus 7 when you take the square root of 49, which gives us 18. And what this does for us is it allows us to cancel out our square roots in the middle here, so they disappear. And then because we multiplied the square root of 7 times the square root of 7, we got the square root of 49, which gives us 7. Same thing here. When you multiply this out, it'd be 36 plus 6 square root of 12 minus 6 square root of 12 minus the square root of 144. And when you simplify that, 36, remember this part in the middle cancels, minus 12, which gives us 24. Okay, now I'm going to show you how we're going to use that on the last page here. So we do have radicals in the denominator. So yesterday when we did this, remember we just did something like this. If we had 3 times the square root of 4 or 5, we'd multiply by the square root of 5 over the square root of 5, and we could then get 3 square root of 5 over, and this would give us the square root of 25, which we knew the square root of, and that's where that canceled out for us. However, that won't work with this. So what we're going to have to multiply by is we're going to have to multiply by the conjugate. Okay, so in this one, we're going to have to multiply by the square root of 5 plus the square root of 2. Okay, notice we had minus the square root of 2 in this, so here it's going to become plus, and on top we're going to multiply by the same thing. So I'm going to do the bottom first. So square root of 5 times the square root of 5 is the square root of 25. Square root of 5 times the square root of 2 is plus the square root of 10. Then negative square root of 2 times the square root of 5 will give us minus the square root of 10. And then lastly we get minus the square root of 4. So again, you just think of these as being in parentheses, and all you're doing is foiling. Okay, is all you're doing there. Now on top, if you notice, there's no addition here, so you're not going to actually FOIL. You're going to just distribute this to both of these. So you're going to get 3 square root of 10 plus 3 square root of 4 when you multiply that. And now we have to go through and simplify everything we can. So on the top, we just get 3 square root of 10 plus 3 times 2. Okay, because we get the square root of 4 is 2, divided by 5. Our square roots of 10 here cancel, and then minus 2. And as we continue to simplify, we get 3 square root of 10 plus 6 divided by 3. Now, a lot of you would probably think you can stop here, but like with imaginary numbers, we can split this up into 3 square roots of 10 over 3 plus 6 over 3, where you can put the 3 underneath both when you're adding. So as you simplify this, you end up with the square root of 10 plus 2. Another way you could have done it from here, some of you may recognize this, that you could do 3 square roots of 10 plus 2 and factor out a 3. Okay, you could do that also and then cancel these 3's, and then again, just like before, you'd be left with that there. So you can either split it up and put the 3 under both parts, or you could factor out a 3. That each way could work. So then in the other one, you'll do 3 plus the square root of 6 is what you're going to multiply by. So as you do this, and I'm going to go through this fairly quickly just